Are my homeschooled kids behind? This is a question that every homeschool mom has asked herself at one time or another. I'm going to give you some questions you can ask yourself to measure whether your kids are getting behind where they should be. Welcome to Our Life Homeschooling, where I share weekly encouragement for homeschool moms. If you've not been on my channel before, hi, my name is Sherry. I am a homeschooling mom to 10 kids. I'm married to my high school sweetheart, Nelson. We've been married for 25 years. This is our 16th year of homeschooling, and I love encouraging other moms here on my YouTube channel and on the blog, ourlifehomeschooling.com. Now, if you clicked on this video, I'm assuming that you are a homeschooling parent who has wondered or worried at one time or another if your kids are behind where they should be. I'm excited to get into this topic because the longer I've homeschooled, this is something I've become more and more passionate about. And I want to say from the very beginning that I believe as long as you are a parent who loves your kids, who loves to learn, there is no behind. There is only forward. Your child is where they're at, and you are taking them from the place they are at and moving them ahead a little bit every day. But I do want to share with you some questions to ask yourself so that you can have some peace of mind knowing that you're covering what is important each day in your homeschool. For so many of us homeschoolers, this is our very first time doing this. We have nothing to compare this kind of education to except the kind that we had growing up in traditional school settings. And this is why we ask ourselves this question, because we compare homeschooling to a traditional education. But I'm sure if any of us looked back at our years in school, we could think of gaps in our education. There are things that totally got missed, that were skipped over, things we never learned. And then as an adult, maybe at some point you just realize, hey, I don't remember learning about modern history. I don't remember learning about ancient Greece and Rome, or whatever the topic is for you. And all of a sudden you become interested in it. We can all look back at our education and see where there were gaps, because every education has gaps. I've really been enjoying some of these fall days outside with our kids. I like to soak in as much outside time as possible. If we have a nice day, we really try to spend time outside because I know winter's coming. We're all going to be stuck in, and I just don't want to miss this. Thinking back to the years when I was a public school teacher, I remember having kids in my class who were behind and kids who were ahead. And if we're comparing our homeschool kids to a traditional school setting, I think one thing we fail to remember is that homeschooling is meeting the child where they're at. If they're struggling in some math concept, for example, we can stop and take our time until they fully grasp it before moving on. In school, that's just not a possibility. The curriculum must keep going. The lessons have to keep going. But with homeschooling, we can stop. And the opposite is true. If our kids are getting it and it's getting boring for them because they totally understand this concept, we can move ahead. We don't have to stay there and just do busy work. I think what brings a lot of peace to a homeschool parent is just letting go of that traditional school mentality and realizing that you are giving your child an individualized education. In this way, there is no behind. They are always moving forward from where they are to where they need to be. But I know for some of you, you want to be able to measure this a little bit better. And I'm just going to give you 5 questions that I ask myself to help me remember and to gauge each day if we are making the kind of progress that we should be making. I want to show you quickly a free resource that's on the blog this week. This is Fall Poems for Kids. It's a free printable. I have about 13 of our favorite poems to read during the autumn season, and then I made this printable that you can use. This is great for copywork. Sometimes I'll hand these to my kids as part of their copywork. You can also use these to help you memorize a poem in your homeschool. And a lot of times I'll just read them aloud during morning time. We'll pick a different one each day and read it aloud. It's very inspiring. You can find these on the blog, ourlifehomeschooling.com. And I'll also link it below. And here's another one. We are still working through the Burgess bird book, and I like to use the Peterson Field Guide coloring book along with it. This week we learned about the brown-headed cowbird and the Baltimore oriole. Back to the 5 questions to ask to make sure you're making progress in your homeschool. The first question is, are you reading to your kids every day? When you read to your kids, I recommend reading in small, short chunks throughout the day so that the lessons are short, enough to just capture their attention. You want to finish the reading lesson with them on the edge of their seats, wishing that you would read more. If they're asking, oh, can we read just a little bit more? Sometimes I do, but sometimes I stop and I just want to leave them at that point. Reading to them frequently in short lessons increases their appetite for learning. This is something that doesn't take a lot of time in one sitting, but cumulatively, it adds up to quite a bit of time. In our home, we read together during morning time. Usually I'll read a Bible story. I'll often read about a Christian hero or a Shakespeare play. We mix it up, but I always read to them something in the morning. And then when they're doing their schoolwork, they have assigned reading during that time. We read again after lunch when we put our nappers down and I sit on the sofa and read to the kids. It doesn't take very long, but it's another time when they are listening to someone read to them. And then we read the Bible together at dinner. Once again, just a short chapter, takes 5 to 10 minutes. And then sometimes our kids will listen to audiobooks at night. These are the Burgess Bird Book Nature Study cards that you can also find on the blog. They've been such a helpful tool this year in helping our kids learn about the birds of North America. I like to read the chapter in the Burgess Bird Book. The kids color the picture and put the sticker next to the bird in their coloring book, and then we review these cards. I'll show them the ones with the text, and then sometimes we'll play a matching game afterward with the ones that don't have text. And then our favorite thing to do afterward is just watch some short clips from YouTube about the bird we're studying.
What's on my thing we did? Woodpecker.
Woodpecker.
Brown-headed cowbird.
Brown-headed cowbird. That was today's.
Wait, that's the wait, no.
No.
Mom,
It looks like a robin. This is not. Remember, it's in the robin. They're both in the blackbird family. This is the Baltimore oriole. You can tell by the white stripe on its wing. The second question I ask myself to make sure we're making progress is, are we practicing some life skills every day? Now, this is one huge advantage you have as homeschoolers. It's something, a measurement that they don't use in traditional school that I think is sadly missing. Can kids do basic home chores? Do they know how to wash the dishes by hand? Can they follow a recipe from beginning to end? Can they wash their own laundry? Of course, when they're young, that's something they won't be able to do. But as they grow older, do they know how to keep their bedroom clean? How to take care of personal hygiene? As they grow older, do they know how to manage their time well, to manage their money? Teaching our kids practical life skills is something we can focus on as homeschoolers. I personally think it's a huge advantage that we have, that we can prepare them for some of these things. One of the best ways to teach your kids life skills is by setting aside time for it in your family life every day. We have chores in the beginning of our morning. After we finish morning time, we do chores. This is a time for pickup, so whatever area the person has, they have to completely clean that room and pick it up as well. So it kind of covers both things. So I think having it as a part of your day is a place to start, and then it really branches out from there. We've had our older kids, they love to cook, so sometimes they'll make lunch for us. That's what my daughter did today for lunch, and it's just so helpful. And then you just find more and more ways or things that need to be done around the house that are ways that you can teach them that skill. This is a really simple fall dish we have pretty often, almost every week this time of year. It's just sausage, sweet potatoes, green beans, and apples. You just fry it in the skillet. It's quick, it's very healthy. Sometimes I'll toast almonds and add them to it as well, and that's a really nice touch. Also, we will sprinkle some cinnamon. The kids really like this for the most part, especially in fall. The third thing I would ask to make sure we're making progress every day, and this is a really important one. This one is more academic. The life skills one probably throws people off because a lot of times homeschoolers don't think that that's important. That's something I learned from years of homeschooling. It was something I didn't focus on at first and learned how important it was. But this third one is make sure you're spending some time every day doing reading, writing, and math. Make sure your child is progressing in this area in just some small way every day. We also have a time set aside every day where we do our independent work. This is the time when our kids are focusing on these subjects. And in a home like ours with multiple children, my method has always been to start with the oldest child first, get them independent at reading, writing, and math, and then move on to the next one. It doesn't mean that they're completely on their own, but I switch more to being more of a facilitator in their work, and they take more ownership of their work, and then I move on to the next child who needs to learn to read, needs to learn how to write his letters, his words, do copywork on his own, and also the foundations of math. Here I'm helping my daughter as she's learning some more difficult word problems with percentages. And I just remember the first time I came to this with our oldest, it seemed so hard, but math gets so much easier as you teach more kids and you learn how to understand it better and break it down for them more. Another thing that I think is often not seen in the homeschool world is how much time we spend as moms on just regular housework. This is a big part of my day, and I think this is what allows us to teach our kids life skills is that we're doing a lot of these things and they're right beside us. So sometimes they'll step in or they'll just sit and watch, and it's not so foreign to them. A lot of times when I'm doing laundry or fixing a meal, I'll have whoever is the child that's the newest reader at that time, I'll have them read to me while I'm doing my work. And that's exactly what William's doing here. He's reading. It's a way that I can get something done and yet he can get through his lesson, and I'm just tuned in enough to be able to hear how much help he needs. The fourth question to ask yourself to see if you're making progress, the kind of progress you need to make, is are you giving your kids some free time every day to pursue their interest? Is their schedule so packed that there is really no time for free exploration or for them to think about a hobby or maybe an entrepreneur skill that they'd like to develop? Now, again, like life skills, this is not something that people would typically think of asking themselves to see if their kids are behind. But after homeschooling for 15 years, like I said, we have 10 kids, ages 20 down to 2. We have 1 graduate, 7 in school, 2 preschoolers. I have just seen the incredible benefits of our kids having free time in their day. For younger kids, this is free play. For older kids, it's time to pursue their interests. I would argue that if your day is so packed with academic learning and you finally finish and then the kids are being rushed off to this lesson or that sport or this activity, and there's no time in their day for them to just relax and think and wonder and imagine, I think that this hurried type of lifestyle can put kids behind. When we finish our homeschool, our book type work in the afternoon, after I finish reading aloud to the kids, they have a good bit of time that's completely free. And our little kids are usually outside playing or inside with some kind of imaginative world that they're all engaged in. Our older kids spend this time doing things that they're interested in, such as learning to play guitar, learning to start a micro bakery, trying to build a tree house. I could just name so many more, but our kids spend this time pursuing their interests. When kids have enough free time like this in their day, they tend to be kids that still love to learn even as they grow older. And that love for learning is really the benchmark for what makes a difference. For me, that's the benchmark for success. Like Charlotte Mason says, when they're finished with their education, the question isn't how much do they know, but how much does the child care? Giving them margin in their day fosters a love of learning. Here, our son is learning just the very basics of multiplication, and we learn this through skip counting and through building arrays like this, where we'll have 3 sets of 2 or 5 sets of 8. They were giving him pictures like this in his book to show the examples, but I felt that he really needed something concrete that he could look at and manipulate with his hands to help him understand it better. And I've used these little square tiles before with our kids to help them learn a lot of different concepts with math, but especially multiplication is just super helpful. And then teaching them to skip count by 2s to 20. And then once they get good, count by 2s to 20 and back again. 3s to 30 and back, 4s to 40 and back, and then just slowly increase it. Skip counting has just been such a great tool for memorization or for multiplication for our kids. If you guys have any little quick tips for math, whether it be for multiplication and division or addition and subtraction that have really helped you, I'd love if you'd comment below. I'm always looking for more suggestions, even after 15 years of homeschooling. And I also think it's just so helpful when people share these type of tips because it just spreads the knowledge, and what worked for me may not work for someone else, but what you've done might help them. The last question I ask to make sure we are making progress every day is, do we spend some part of our day that exposes our kids to truth, goodness, and beauty? This is the riches. This is the inspiration for our day. And for us, we do this in morning time. Morning time is when we cover the beautiful subjects like art, music, poetry, Shakespeare, geography, hymn study, lots more. I could go on with all the things that we do. But do you have something beautiful as part of your day? It doesn't need to take long. It can just be some little short snippet, 5 minutes of something that's true, good, and beautiful to add to your day. This also inspires a love of learning in your kids. We finished out our week by heading to a volleyball tournament for our high schoolers. My husband was able to take off, and it was really nice to just enjoy the day together. We always see so many friends when we're here, so this was a fun end to our week. Our kids, we have 4 kids that play volleyball, and they're on 4 different teams. So we literally were packing up our whole wagon of stuff in between each game, trying to see all of our kids' games. And so it was just a really full, packed day. This is an all homeschool volleyball tournament. These are all homeschoolers, and the first time we came, I was just amazed. It really just makes me think of the pioneer homeschool families who had no support, or some of them faced legal battles. And it makes me so thankful that they paved the way for us, that we have so many resources like these available to us. I've heard from some of you in remote areas of the world where you're homeschooling very much alone. I hope you can see this and see what's possible. It may look completely different a generation from where you are now. You may have a packed gym like this, full of homeschoolers competing. When we started homeschooling, this was certainly something I didn't see in our future, and yet I'm so thankful that our kids have something like this and that we have this kind of community.
Dad, don't go on the court. Don't go on the court.
Yeah, we're going to go around. That would be...
I hope this video encouraged you in homeschooling. There is no behind. Your kids are where they're at, and you are moving them forward. If you enjoyed this content, you might like watching the video I did a few weeks ago called "Have You Made the Same Homeschooling Mistakes I Have?" Please like and subscribe. I do one video a week on homeschooling encouragement for everyday moms. I'll see you next week.